which is always entertaining to read.
It is.
I'm not going to read it though. Turn that bit off. So we are recording this. So I think I should get started.
Oh, and at this point, can we just ask everyone now to please turn off your cameras, because the face that we need to see now is actually Sarah's.
Me.
So
You
if
don't
you don't
really.
mind turning off your cameras and making sure your microphones are off. And I do go through during the meeting, and if I see microphones on, I turn them off. So please don't be offended. It's just to keep that sound quality.
Yes. Righty ho. Trying to see what I can see. I never have any idea what's being recorded and what's up on the screen, but it's all looking very weird. So anyway, now my everybody, and welcome to this monthly presentation by the New Zealand Society of Genealogists. I'm Sarah Hewitt, the chair, and with me tonight I have Megan Orme-Whitlock, who is the Director for Education, and hiding away in our guests we have Amanda Maxwell, who's one of our directors, and also we have Paul Alp, and Paul is hopefully going to chime in along the way this evening because he is our man when it comes to the Kiwi collection, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. So I'm going to start off just by doing a quick presentation about the Kiwi collection and some benefits I've found from it, and then we'll jump in and look at it on the website. So now I'm going to start sharing the screen, which will be vastly entertaining. And great thing about recording this is I can edit this waffly bit out, and I do. What's it doing? Right, 5 windows. That's what we wanted because we wanted our PowerPoint. And now it started at the last slide, hasn't it? Technology, gotta love it. Okay, take 2, any minute now. I should be better at this by now, shouldn't I? So, welcome everybody to this presentation on the Kiwi collection. So, first question, of course, what is the Kiwi collection? It is, as of December 22, when the next update comes through, 12 million records over a nice round 340 different record sets. They have been collected by NZSG members for NZSG members over many, many years. And that's the key point to note about it, is that it is for NZSG members. We often get asked, why aren't we selling it to the public? And that is because members have collected it for other members. And so we have to abide with their wishes that that's how they wanted it to be. However, we are starting to branch out. The board has the aspiration that we will make the Kiwi collection a sort of one-stop shop, that if you're looking for a person in New Zealand, you will find as many records as are findable on the Kiwi collection. So we're starting to branch out and get data out of other databases. So we added the online cenotaph collection last December, and this December we are adding a few small collections about conscientious objectors that have come from the NZ History website. So if you know of any little databases you'd like to add, do let us know, and we'd be very pleased to add to them. And of course the big thing about it from the middle of last year was that it's now available online and on any device, and that's really great because it gets around some of the technology issues like people not having CD-ROM drives in their computers anymore. The Kiwi has evolved over time. It started out as the Kiwi Index and became the collection on a CD, and then USB, and now online. And the greatest thing about it being online is that, as you can see with us promoting the update in December, is we can keep updating it. So we're adding another 100,000 records this December. And we'll continue to add records as we get them. I did this slide a while back just to sort of give an overview at an in-person presentation on the collections that are in there. This is sort of, the print got a bit small on the slide, so I had to stop, but it gives you an idea, and I'll show you in a minute where on the website you can have a look at the whole 340 different collections. I'm going to move into an example of something that I found very successful and helpful in the Kiwi collection. Starting with me, I'll go back to my dad and my gran and my great-grandmother, who was born Greta Marion O'Callaghan. I know about Greta's parents from her marriage certificate. They are Jasper Pine O'Callaghan and Winifred Alice Baker. But when I went searching for Greta in the BDM records, I got what I like to call the red line of death, which is there are no records that match your query terms. And I flicked over, I searched by her surname only, loosening it up a bit, and I only found 4 children. Now, I also pop into Find My Past because I find that has some good spelling variations, and you can just search by parents' first names if you want to. You don't need a subscription, you just need to have an account with them. And I found exactly the same for children. So at the moment we have this family with Greta, and we had an approximate birth date for her. And of course, normally speaking, this would present quite a big red flag. Where had she come from? Were these actually her parents? Now there's lots of other collaborating records, and including lots of lovely family photos. So Greta in this photo is kind of in the middle of your screen at the right hand end of the back row, and in front of her is her mother, and to the right of her is one of her brothers. So there's plenty of records that made me think that we had the right family, but why wasn't I getting the documentation? And so I came into the Kiwi collection and I found Greta, and there weren't very many records for a Greta O'Callaghan, as you can see. Proved that I had the right one because I found a marriage record for her. You can see it on the screen there on the right. And then when I started searching, I found her in the school records, and all of her school records were very consistent that Jasper was her father. When I start looking for Jasper as a parent in the school records, I can see that he has a lot of children. And in fact, when you put the tree together, you discover that actually there are 9 O'Callaghan children, and 5 of them didn't have their births registered. They lived in Christchurch. There was absolutely no good reason for it other than just not being bothered and being annoying to their descendants. So stop being so much of a red flag, because she was not the only one that wasn't registered. And of course, down in Christchurch, if you get down there into the lovely library they have down there, they have the card catalogue of the parish records, and there quite clearly is a baptism record for her, confirming her parents and, interestingly, her godparents. So that was a great success and very useful to me to collaborate the information I had. And just because I have photos of them, here are pictures of Jasper and Winifred, the culprits here of not doing what they ought to be doing. Now, one little example that takes you kind of out of the family if you're researching other people that aren't the family. Last year I presented at the Auckland Expo at the Fickling Centre. So I wrote off to Research Services going, who's the Fickling Centre named after? And they sent me back some information on Richard Noel Fickling and this lovely picture of him. And so I went looking in the Kiwi collection. Now, because, as you'll see, he was born in 1919, he's kind of a bit young for the Kiwi collection because of the 100 years that we need to abide by in terms of privacy for the records. But when I stuck Fickling in as a surname, I found a huge pile of records. There's 89 there when I took the slide print a while back. So plenty of information, and interestingly, some pedigree collection entries. So if you were looking to make contact with the family, getting information on that might be useful. And BDM showed me that his father was called Joseph, and so we have a number of records for him. So altogether, you know, if you are looking for a name, perhaps you're researching your house, something like that, then there are also records in the Kiwi collection that can be useful to you there. And that is it for the presentation. We are now going to share our screen in a different way. Now, Paul, I know you're out there. If you want to chime in at any point on anything I say, because sometimes I say the wrong things.
Okay.
Do chime in.
Okay, fine.
Right. So I've made my screen full screen because I'm doing this on my laptop, and you don't get the full glory of the NZSG website when it's not full screen, and I would like you to be able to see all of it. So if you're coming into our website, you can see on the front page is the Kiwi collection. Gordon Bennett. And if I click on it, it takes us through to the overview page. This gives information on all sorts of features about the online collection and how to subscribe. And recently we've added, with the help of Paul and Christine Clement, who is the other technical person on our team, some more information about what you can find. So if you click on that, it also gives you an overview of the different record sets and how many are in them currently. So you can see some record sets have a huge number. Schools is over 3 million. And that's a lot of kids going to a lot of different schools. But even things like the BDM includes an index to our certificates collection, and that is a great way to save some money if you find people in there that have certificates. Now, if you want a list of the whole 340 that are different there, just click on the link there and it'll open up an Excel spreadsheet. I'm not going to do it now because it just, I'll disappear off the screen somewhere and it'll make life really complicated. So you can see all of this without being a member. So I'm not logged in, as you can see up the top there. But if I want to actually access the Kiwi collection, I do need to log in. And it brings you to the page. And do you know you can put a photo of yourself up on here? I don't know why I put it up there, but there it is. Pretty photo. Now, if you're already subscribed to the Kiwi collection, it will just say here, log on, and off you go. And if you are not and you wish to, then the button there will say subscribe to the Kiwi collection, and then off you go. And so it's going to open up on a new tab, and you need to agree to the terms and conditions. And of course, one of the big things is you need to allow the pop-ups for it. There are instructions on the website about how to make that happen. Read the terms and conditions. It is important to remember that this is for personal use and all the other conditions, but the personal use is the biggest one. And here we are in the Kiwi collection screen. Now, I'm just going to show you a quick example because I know what the answer is going to be. So when you're searching, all of them have various options here of how you can search with them. And when I was searching, for example, for Jasper Pine O'Callaghan, I would use the starts with and just put JASP because sometimes it's AR and sometimes it's ER. Now I can put a year in, and if you're looking for John Smith, you might want to put a year in, and also you have some options in there. After, before, between will give you some dates. And then if you want to, you can get into the record sets. We'll look at that in a minute, but at the moment I'm just going to search for Emily. Now, Emily comes up with probably the right number of records for a woman who did not marry in New Zealand but died here. And I have to say that I have found it very, very useful, especially this particular one, the 1893 electoral roll, because my sense of geography in Christchurch was about 0 and I had a lot of trouble finding her. And if I'd had this, I would have been very, very pleased. Now, one of the little tweaks that we're making to the Kiwi collection in the next update is that the record that's over here will be highlighted over here, because currently they're not. So it's great that we're adding that little bit in here. But there's some quite good information in here. You know, for a woman, this is probably not more than what you would expect to find in the Kiwi collection at that time. You know, she's not really going to be participating in society as much as a man might be. But it's interesting, it tells me she had a will, so that's good, and that there are undertaker's records. And I did actually get these, and they were actually fascinating because it gave me her maiden name and details that if I was just starting out, I might not necessarily have known. So to find out more, you click on this little button here, the record source, and it will take you to a PDF that gives you the information on what's where the information came from, what's included in it. In this case, who are the different funeral directors that have provided information provided, and of course, where you can get more information from them. And in this case, it was emailing research services, and they sent me the information that they hold. So this is just, you know, one example of a very small set of records. Now, if you had a more common name, you might want to start looking at the individual record sets in here, and you can see that there are quite a lot of them. On the spreadsheet, Paul and Christine did a great job of categorizing them to sort of give you some idea. And I think, Paul, are you looking at putting some categories in this listing at some point in the future?
In which listing? It's
the drop-down list on the...
There's a list online now which separates them into BDMs, military, cemeteries, immigration, nominal lists, that sort of thing. So you can, in the future, we may be able to search via those categories, but not in this release.
No, so that's something we're aspiring to, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Always looking to make things better. So, you know, the list is just never ending. And I mean, if you stick a name in like Jones, well, see, I mean, Emily Jones. Oops, I don't even. Oh, starts with, so that gives me my Jones.
Yeah.
So
just a tip for searching: when you don't always assume that, like Emily in this instance, will come up. It might have been might be just the initials. It might be EV or something like that, because especially in the parent records for the schools, often they just had initials. So, you know, you might just put E or EV or whatever it is. Don't forget to search by initials as well. And starts with, I would usually use contains, because some people were known by their second name and not their first. So again, contains is the first one. You can use those others, obviously.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you can sort of see here that this is my previous search with Emily in it. There's lots of Caroline Emilys, and you know, in fact, they're all middle names because we haven't got down to the E's yet. But there's 449 results, and if we just stick E in,
you're going to get heaps.
Yeah, and then, you know, if we are looking for parents, where are we going? We want the school records. What am I looking for? School. Down the list, learn my alphabet one of these years. You know, we have two indexes for the schools. One is for the child and one is for the parents. So if you're looking for the E Joneses that had a child, and the blue highlighted one is a new one that was added in the last update. You know, we have a full detail there of
just bear in mind the parent index to those records is not every record. If the surname was different, then it'll be in there, and if the initials are different, then what's the school person's name, then they'll be in there. But it's not 100%.
Yeah, but it's still very useful.
It is, yeah.
That we can search by the parents, because yeah. So, you know, as we update, we add more of the more recent records in there that you can see. So has anybody got any questions or anything they'd like to ask about it?
You can use your hand up symbol, or turn your camera on if you have a question, if you can't see the chat.
Okay.
Right, this is going to be a very short presentation if we don't get any questions.
In the release, around about 1st of December, there are a couple of new things. Where it says search and clear there's another button called source. So if you go into that record type, you don't actually have to do a search. You can go straight to the source, which will bring up that pop-up with the help file. So if you're not sure what it contains or where to go, what it is, you can click on that source.
Yeah.
So that's a new feature.
Elaine has a question.
Very handy.
So Elaine, would you
hi.
like to unmute?
Yeah, thanks. Look, just a quick question. Maybe in an upcoming release, Paul would no doubt know, but I just noticed, because I was doing a bit of background following on my login whilst you were doing that, Sarah. So the one I looked at, it went through to the, it was a source was the pedigrees or the certificates. It must have been certificates, because it said the source was the NZSG certificates officer.
Yes.
But on that, there's no email link for the certificates officer. So you'd then have to go out and look for the certificates officer email link somewhere. Is that potentially coming through?
At the moment,
it will be now.
At the moment, the
it's very
certificates
easy to
is a mail.
change and add to those source files. And that's one of the things about putting it online, is that we can make a change, you know, within 10 minutes to some of these things, whereas before, when it was on CDs and memory sticks, once it's out there, it's hard to change until you made a new release. So that has been quite beneficial. So I've made a note of that. Certificates email, I'll add that to the help file.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, the certificates is only a mail service, but I do agree with Paul that putting more information and, you know, even URLs where to find further information on the NZSG website would be.
Yes, that would be good, even if it kind of you linked on something that went to the point where you could find all that information.
Yeah, I mean, it's such early days with it that you know.
Nothing like user testing as you go along.
Well, exactly, and you know.
Thank you very much for the answers for that, Paul and Sarah.
We're always thinking of potential new things that could be added. One of the things we're talking about is the ability to add images. Now, don't hold your breath, because it won't be in this release, and it probably won't in the next one, but there is some software that could be added. So regardless of what it is, if it's a cemetery and we've got a photo of that grave, that could be linked to that record. Now that we're online and not on CD or memory stick, then that's possible. It's still future, and it'll cost us a little bit of money to do that. But it's a bit like Ancestry or Find My Past. You can click on the image and make up your own mind what that thing actually said. So that's the one coming up. Another one that I haven't really told anybody about, but I'm thinking of it myself, is the ability to select new records. So people who have had the previous version, and just want to look at the new records that were there, could tick a box that said just search the new ones. Now, whether that's useful or not, we'll wait and see, and we'll see how much it will cost us. While I've written a lot of the software for the earlier versions, the online one is done by somebody else, a third party. And of course, when you want to make changes to the actual software, not the data, that costs dollars. So we have to be selling this more, getting it out there to make it attractive, so that we can afford to get some of these niceties that I would say have come along. But the format that we've got on there is, been around for a few years now, and most people seem to like it. The only issue that I'm aware of now is pop-ups, that you do have to have pop-ups turned on, and there are some browsers, especially on phones, that don't automatically have that. It took me a while to search the other day, which a browser I was using wasn't popping up with any of the source records, but it's the pop-ups that cause it. So you can certainly get around it by using a different browser. But other people have asked, can we search by place? And that's been a question been around for 20 years. It's possible, but I think you'll get more wrong, missing out stuff than you would by getting it, because every record type, like 345 record types, they might have place, location. There's no standard. There was never a standard set initially. So Auckland could be about 20 different ways of writing it, and restricted. So the answer is probably no for place. But there are some other things in the wind, but I better not let them out because somebody might shoot me.
Yep, but I mean, we're always looking for more records. I think that's probably.
Well, we want new records. Yeah. Again, there is a standard that we put into here so that people searching can find them, really. So sometimes we well, I don't know, manipulate, clean them up, if you like, from what the original have come in with. But it's easy to change something. We're trying to standardize some record types. This one will have war memorials and rolls of honor, pretty much standardized from about 6 or 7 different sources. Next ones, next version, not this one, we may look at trying to get the probates into one standard record types. Whereas initially, we were grabbing any probates the archives would give us, or NZSG did initially. But that's going back, this has been going for over 25 years, publicised now. So it has evolved. And initially we had public versions and we had branch versions. That's gone out of favour somewhat, but we still need to get some more people in to buy it or join up to get it. So we'll wait and see what happens on that front.
Yes, we have had some quite good uptake on it at the beginning, being aware, of course, that not everybody who belongs to the NZSG is researching in New Zealand, but it really is an amazing resource out there.
But we want now that anybody who's got, it's amazing, you go along, if you have an open day or something like this, and people come along, oh, you'll never have my family, and you put something in and 4 or 5 entries pop up. Well, this is where you came from, this is where you went to school. And it's a great starting point, and it's only really meant to be a starting point. It's a secondary source, not a primary source, because these records have come from somewhere else. So once you click on a record, you should really follow that through. It may have been mistranscribed or slightly different, and you can then go somewhere else to see the original or go to the next step. So that's what it was set up for. Back in 1995, when I first started tripping around branches, and they had, you go to say New Plymouth or something else, and they'd have a lovely little index sitting there. But hey, unless you went there, you could never see it. And so that was the point of setting this up, was that if we contribute to it, we all benefit, because we can do an index, even if it's only name and date, pretty much to get a starter off. So That was the philosophy behind it.
Yeah.
Leslie has a question.
As far as subscription goes, $50 a year, would you consider, if somebody wanted to take out 2 years or 3 years, a discount, which means that the society would have initially more money in their pocket to do what they wanted?
There are lots of suggestions going around about various things, including the Kiwi collection subscription. And yes, that is always a possibility. So yes, we will add it to the list because we are needing to think that. I mean, I know some societies offer you the option of, having a membership, buying 2 or 3 years of membership. So why not? One of the things I have thought about, and this is sort of an accounting and membership system element of it, is a number of people's membership and their Kiwi don't necessarily coincide, and that they may want to have them together. They may not, but having the opportunity to do that. But yeah, there's lots of things that are under discussion from that perspective by the board. We'll let you know when we make a decision.
Elaine has her hand up.
Thanks. Hi, me again. I was just thinking, the certificates collection, how well do you think that new NZSG members know about that? Because I think it's fantastic that if you've been doing research and you've got these certificates, or even if you've accidentally, got one that doesn't turn out to be your family, you can send them in to the certificates officer and they make part of this database. Do you think that's actually very well known or utilised?
At the moment, it's very much underutilised because it's still a postal service, but in the new year, we're going to have some announcements on that, and I'm not going to say any more at this particular moment in time. Right. But we do have a team working on it, and there's going to be some significant changes, and with that, a very large amount of publicity in the new year. So, yeah,
well, that's wonderful, Sarah, because I really think that is quite a benefit of NZSG membership, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it is, some of the things like that, and it's great having the index on the Kiwi collection because, I come across them from time to time and think, would I like that one? Yes, I would.
Yeah, there are over 1 million records, 1,028,000 indexed to the certificates.
Yeah.
The other big one is the schools. The schools is something that's our proud, you won't find that anywhere else. So
no,
that is probably, I think, the most important one. But then all the small ones are important too, especially if they're your ancestor.
Well,
so
that's it.
We want to get indexes sent to us, and we may not include them, but we will try where we can to include them. So send them in to the, what is it, Sarah? The kiwicollection.org, genealogy.org, whatever it is, the email.
Kiwicollection@genealogy.org.
That's it.
So, yeah, the more the merrier. But
absolutely.
But yeah, one of the big things about the Kiwi collection is the indexes that we have in there for our collections, and and also remembering, like the schools collection, the certificates collection is indexed by, I think, everybody who's on there, so on the certificate. So
there are some restrictions. We have to live with the privacy restrictions of 100 years for births and 80 for marriages, and no, we don't for deaths. Even though the RGO has a 50-year restriction on deaths, the Privacy Act only applies to living people. So
yeah,
we get all the deaths.
So I mean, my Jasper Pine O'Callaghan pops up as an entry in the certificates collection because it's one of his daughter's weddings.
Yes.
So it's her marriage certificate.
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
that can be useful because, you know, you might be looking for, you know, someone who's
exactly. And that's why
other things they did, not just the direct events.
Parent in the schools.
We've got 3 questions. Sorry, Lindley, would you like to ask your question?
Sure, thank you. Great, really enjoying these sessions, so thank you for running them. And my question's something you mentioned earlier, not related to the collection, was the online writing and publishing group. I think last time I got an email address and I don't think I used the right address because I didn't get a reply. So I'm just wondering how I make contact and become part of that group.
Okay. So what you do is if you email education@genealogy.org.nz, that will come through to me and I'll be able to link you up with the online writing and publishing group, which is a really active group. Or you could email at mow.director@genealogy.org.nz. Either of those emails will get to me and I'll link you up.
Awesome, thank you. I think it was the education one that I tried last time, but maybe it ended up in a spam or something.
No, well, we actually discovered a slight fault with that after the last presentation. So Julian has fixed that for us. So definitely feel free to try that again, but CC the MOW one as well.
Awesome, I'll do that. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Lindley. Jean, would you like to ask your question?
What do you mean by the certificates collection?
So the certificates collection has been put together by basically members sending in certificates that they no longer need from their research. So there are hundreds of thousands of them now, and you can, you know, if you have the Kiwi collection, you can see which ones we have. Otherwise, you can do a request and ask them to search for particular names.
Okay, so what kind of certificates are they?
And they'll send you certificates.
There are birth, death, marriages, coroner's record. Those are the major ones, obviously, but there are coroner's records. There are other types of records, immigration records. Not so many with those, but the main ones are the birth, death, and marriages.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
And the other thing to always bear in mind is that not just New Zealand. So I lopped a branch of my tree off in Lincolnshire and sent up all the certificates I got from that. So, you know, another thing about the Kiwi collection is to actually go stick a few surnames in that might not be, you know, might not have ever made it to New Zealand, and search under the certificates collection, because you might find something in England or somewhere else that might be of use to you.
You might. We try and collect records that have some connection with New Zealand.
Yeah.
Whether they're born overseas and they came to New Zealand, as long as they've had some connection with New Zealand, then we're happy to put them in.
Wendy, would you like to ask your question?
Yep, thanks. Going back to the certificates collection and the births, deaths, and marriages, we used to have access to the nice little codes that went with it, so you could tell who was who on the document. Will we have access to that again, please? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and have a word with June Stratford, because she does a lovely little talk on the collection, and that's one of the things she explains, or she used to. And it would be really good if we had access to that information again.
What sort of code? Where? Yeah.
Oh, I've probably got her form somewhere, but it told you information about who the person was in the document. So you could work out a certain amount without getting a copy.
Oh, okay.
I can dig it out and send it to you if you like.
I think I know what you mean.
Well, I don't think that is recorded in the database.
Mm.
It's not in the database that she gives us.
But we used to have access to it in a
Well, you might
previous
have,
version.
but I'm telling you, it's not in the database. So I
Okay.
just wanted to go and do 1 million of those things in there.
So that's been lopped off and removed.
I don't know because I've never seen it.
Well, it used to be there.
Well, since the last 25 years that I've taken the database, I've never seen it. So whether it was in there, maybe she added that separately, but I've never seen it. All the records, all the things that are in the database that she sends us or we collect are put up on the web, on the index.
Okay, well, I'll go and have a look and see what I can find. from
Okay,
the
yeah, I'll
past
be
then.
interested.
Yeah.
If I find anything, I'll send it to you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
If I just share my
Betsy has a
screen,
question.
can I just do a quick follow up for that? When I'll just show my screen again. So this is the one for Jasper Pine O'Callaghan that I have found, and it quite clearly says in here that he's a parent. So is that the sort of information you're looking at? Because it, that's the information that's in the database about, what the person is relative to the.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that does look like more than what I saw last time I used it, because I don't have a current sub to this.
Okay. Yeah, there's an event field, which you can see there's marriage, and there's also cross-reference field. So that's probably what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think that was there last time I had a look. So that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Cool.
Kathy, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, it's not a question, it's just to support what Wendy's saying. That with the certificates that I have got through June and previously Francie, I would write to Francie, she would send me back a list that identified or explained what the abbreviations were on the actual family list. So we've got a list of certificates and there's an abbreviation in there, and this other list explain those abbreviations. And yes, I've got copies as well. So if you get stuck, if Wendy can't find hers, I've got one.
Thanks, Kathy.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll be to do with the extract that they're taking out of the database to send to you. And it won't be the same as what's on the Kiwi collection, I suspect.
Might be.
Who knows? Do we have any other questions?
No hands up at this point. If you can't find your hand up, then just turn your camera on and I will be able to see that you want to ask a question. But I think that we don't seem to have any imminent questions there, Sarah.
Okay, well, it's coming up to 8 o'clock, so I might just wrap us up for the evening. So I'd like to thank Paul for coming along this evening and sharing his expertise, because of course he is the Kiwi collection expert, and Megan for being my co-host and handling everything in the background. And I'd like to wish everybody happy holidays, a bit of an Americanism, but that you have a great summer, and we will be putting out details of what we are going to be presenting on our last Thursdays when we work out what that is. But in the meantime, keep watching eKit and watching out for the new update to the Kiwi collection, which will be out in around a week's time, and our magazine, which will be coming out a little bit late because of our editor having had COVID, but it will be out in the sort of first to second week of December. So lots of things coming up, as well as Christmas. So enjoy your summer, and we look forward to seeing you all back here again next year when we do our next presentation. And definitely February, we're having the genealogical computing group coming along to talk about picking software, which many of you are probably already au fait with, but I'm sure there will be some people out there that are busy thinking, oh my gosh, what should I pick? So until then, thank you all for coming along this evening, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm going to stop recording.